It was smooth with very less hiccups. In terms of machines malfunctioning, we had a few machines malfunctioning, but not to a very substantial degree. In terms of the replacement rate, ballot unit replacement rate was 0.82%. Control unit replacement was 0.79%, and VVPAT for replacement was 2.69%. There was also failure to remove VVPAT slips during the mock poll. I mean, not VVPAT slips, but to erase mock poll data rather during the mock poll from 3 polling stations, 2 in East Garo Hills and 1 in East jingïakynduh Hills. And apart from that, we had almost 1,830 polling stations under webcast. It's all, close to 60% of the polling stations were under webcast. And we do expect the figures to rise up because as per our initial assessment also, we had assessed that close to 200 polling parties would be returning after 9 p.m. So then we would get clearer data. And about 400 plus polling stations would be voting beyond 9 p.m. Apart from that, I would also like to share some of the highlights. There were some apprehensions that that voters in Mawhati Assembly constituency, 6 polling stations under Mawhati constituency would perhaps have their freedom to exercise their franchise interfered with. But however, due to the cooperation of the Assam police and also due to the prompt coordination between the state government of Meghalaya and the state government of Assam and the counterpart police forces, all the voters of these 6 polling stations were able to come and cast their votes in this interstate border polling station. Then apart from that, I would also like to highlight that today polling was held across 3,419 polling stations. Originally we have 3,482, but as you know, in Soyong, the polls have been adjourned due to the death of the contesting candidate. So 63 polling stations under Soyong would be going to the polls at a later date, as announced by the Election Commission. Polls, of course, have been officially adjourned by the ECI. As you have seen in the past 2-3 days, our polling teams have traveled and they have traversed through mountainous terrain and crossed rivers, and also have gone through steep mountain paths. And we had 183 polling stations which were under the shadow zone. However, we are grateful to the police that they were able to set up 264 police radio stations, and 19 repeater stations were set up to ensure that through the police network we were able to communicate with all our teams. Also, there were these interesting polling stations like the Kamsing and the Kalatek, which are 2 riverine polling stations. And also, there were many makeshift bamboo bridges which our polling teams had to cross, especially in the Garo Hills region. And apart from that, we had some interesting, polling stations where polling parties used ropeways to transport their polling material, and many polling parties had to cross through mud-swollen rivers, especially the Rumpa River in South Garo Hills, and also some polling parties had to trek for hours. They had to go on a foot march. There was one polling station in South Garo Hills where the polling party had to trek for about 8 hours, and another polling team in Maukarwat for about 4 hours. And apart from that, we also had to use porters to, porters were used by the polling parties to trek through very steep stone paths. Then there was one particular polling party in Nongna in West Khasi Hills, whereby in southwest Khasi Hills, whereby there was a team of both forest guards as well as police personnel who had to be deployed together because it was a common track for the elephants. Then in the state, the only temporary polling station was set up at the leprosy center under 9 Nongpo Assembly Constituency. So this polling station was set up especially for the leprosy patients, and it is the only temporary polling station amongst these 3419 polling stations that we had. And this also captures the spirit of Election Commission's no voter to be left behind. We had 120 all-women polling station, and we had 60 model polling stations, and we had a number of youth-managed polling stations, which were set up all across the state. We also deployed a large number of poll volunteers were drawn from the leading youth organizations, and in some districts they were also drawn from the social welfare department and from other government departments to help the people with disability and the citizens. Coming to the people with disability and senior citizens, I'm happy to share with you that against the applied Form 12D, that means the number that was applied, the votes that were casted was about 91.8% against those people who had applied Form 12D for the senior citizen category, that means 80 plus, and against the PWDs, against the forms applied, the votes cast were about 95%. Home voting, as you know, was initiated for the first time this year, and it was some effect by the category which had applied for Form 12D. Our teams had gone across the state, the people with disability and the senior citizens above 80, and this enabled them to vote from the comforts of their homes and to transcend the queues that were there. So this was a new measure that was there this time. Apart from that, the electorate that was going into the polls, 10.59 lakhs was male and 10.81 was female. So the enrollment of the females was much higher than the males. And also today, across the polling stations in the state which went to the polls, we saw that it appeared that the women voters far outnumbered the male counterparts. In terms of the age profile of the electorates, in the 18-19 category, we had 89,564. And these first-time voters were also felicitated with the first-time voter medals. And similarly, like we have done in the past, the first 5 voters of every polling station were also given these first-to-vote medals. In terms of people with disability, we had about 11,310 who were registered PWD electors. 80-plus voters were 22,042. And the total control units that were deployed was 4,700 plus. The total ballot units was almost 5,000. And the total VVPAT is about 4,900 plus. This time in Meghalaya, there were a number of seizures that was made. In fact, the seizures that were made were much more than the previous years, almost 20 times higher. As on date, as on yesterday, the total seizure amounts to 74.18 crores, of which the value of the of cash was 8.71 crores, and of course the lion's share was 33.25 crores. And of course the others account for the rest. So in 2018 the total seizure was 1.5 crores. So this time the seizure is 74.18 crores, and the lion's share, of course, I would like to reiterate, is is accounted for under drugs, and this also is is a great contribution of the election machinery this time, that the war on drugs had intensified during this period since MCC was declared, and a record amount of drugs was seized. Apart from that, in terms of voter awareness, from the Election Commission and from the Office of the CEO, we have laid great emphasis on using music, and there were music videos which were produced and which were performed by our state election icons called Vote for Sure, and another one by the state's disability icon, the Light After Dark, which was also used and which was also produced to inspire the people with disability. Coming to, since this year we don't really have much time between polling and counting. We have hardly, not more than 48 hours also. By the time all the polling parties reach, it'll be early tomorrow morning. And this month, as you know, ends on the 28th, and then on the 2nd is counting. So I'll just give tables this time to the counting observer. And we will also have the VCB, the VVPAT counting, one polling station at random. 5 polling stations at random for counting VVPAT slips to check the figures whether they are in the control unit and the VVPAT slips. The usual the counting of ballot ETBBS counting of the control units, and as soon as half an hour commences, then simultaneously the counting of the control units also take place. So this, in brief, is an overview of the which were held this time, which were announced on the 18th of January, where the model code of conduct kicked in, and which culminated today in the polling day on the 27th of February. And of course, counting is on March 2nd. So now, anything from the police before we open the field for questions?
Fine, sir, actually, but
Mr. Vivek Same is the Assistant State Nodal Officer, Police Nodal. And of course, I have with me Additional CEO, Mr. Maulong also, and my team here, Joint CEO and System Analyst and ASC. Yeah.
Well, from the police, we had made elaborate deployment plans for the elections that we ensure free and fair elections. 10 companies were actually inducted before the NCC. 30 companies, then 10 companies after the NCC. And then thereafter, on the 24th of February, we had another 79 companies coming from the Central Paramilitary Forces and also certain states like the Manipur Police, Telangana and Tamil Nadu, which had joined us. So since huge number of force, about 119 companies, total 119 companies were here, and on that elaborate arrangements, logistic measures had to be made, briefing them on the sensitivity of the place, briefing them on the vulnerability, criticality, day-to-day basis of every situation, was actually an elaborate exercise, and had put our officers and men 24/7 actually grounded, and also assessing. It's been an elaborate exercise where everybody involved, also heroin. We had heroin of which is 24/7, FST, SSTs, plus our checkpoints and all that, with the CAPF and all that. That kept everything actually in order, and we had all seized the border, all our villages bordering Assam. So by and large, and we've had a few stray incidents where we've registered cases, and I would say by and large it's been a great success.
Yeah. So just before I open, Assistant State Police Nodal Officer just mentioned, is that in the context of the issues that we had and the Chief Secretary and the DG, 2 rounds of meetings, and the Chief Secretary and the DGPs of the 2 states were in a list of 181 polling stations bordering Assam, and polling parties to traverse through Assam. So elaborate discussions and coordination with the part Assam DCs, and the law and order situation was under grip and under control. So